You push the glass door to your boss office with your shoulders, struggling to balance an overstuffed binder, a stack of documents, and of course his black coffee. No sugar, no cream. You were already late by 10 minutes, and the last thing you needed was a reminder of his disapproving glare. Steady, steady, you muttered to yourself as you stepped inside. The coffee cup wobbled precariously on top of the stack of papers. You tried to readjust, but you yelped as your foot caught on the edge of the plush carpet. The entire stack slipped from your grip, and in one humiliating second, you were on your knees in front of the desk. Papers scattered across the floor, and the coffee cup, miraculously intact, spun out of your grasp, rolling until it stopped right at the tip of his polished black shoe. There was a pause. Slowly, you looked up to meet a pair of piercing dark eyes staring down at you from behind a dark oak desk. Jungkook, CEO of JEON Enterprises and the bane of your existence, gazed at you in complete silence. His expression was blank, no frown, no irritation, just calm, unnerving scrutiny. He made no move to help you, his hands resting on the armrest of his leather chair as if you were some curious creature that had wandered in to interrupt his day. You arrogant jerk, you cursed silently, fighting the urge to hurl the nearest paperweight at his perfectly gelled hair. You are really going to just sit there and watch me flail around on the floor, aren't you? You mumbled under your breath, your voice low as a whisper which barely made it to his ears. Taking a deep breath to steady yourself, you pushed off the ground, brushing off your skirt with as much as dignity you could muster. Forcing a tight smile, you retrieved the coffee cup and with an exaggerated flourish placed it on his desk. Your coffee, sir, you said sweetly, sarcasm dripping from the polite words. You could feel his eyes following your every movement as you bent down to scoop up the scattered papers, shuffling them into a messy pile. Still crouched on the floor, you flipped through the pages hastily, locating his daily schedule. Straightening up, you cleared your throat. Your 9 a.m. meeting with the board has been moved to 10:30. You began briskly, holding his gaze. You have a call with the investors from New York at 11:45, lunch with Mr. Kingston at 1 p.m., and a site visits scheduled for 3 p.m. You rattled off each item on his agenda as if nothing out of the ordinary just happened. Is there anything else you need me to adjust, Mr. John? Silence was the only response you got in return. You wanted to squirm under his unwavering stare, but you kept your posture rigid, chin up. For a long moment, he said nothing, and you swore he was trying to find a crack in your calm facade. Then, his gaze flickered to the coffee cup. It's cold, he said simply. You blinked, staring at the cup in disbelief. That was what he had to say? Excuse me, you asked, incredulous. Your coffee, it's cold. He looked back up at you, face unreadable. Next time, try not to take so long. Your hands tightened around the sheaf of papers. Your face heated up, but you pasted on a tight smile. Noted. You replied crisply. You turned on your heel, marching out of the office with as much as dignity you could muster. As soon as the door closed behind you, you let out a breath you hadn't realized you had been holding. One of these days, John Jungkook, I swear, you thought furiously, clenching your fist at your sides. I'll wipe that smug look right off your stupid, handsome face. Taking a deep breath, you straightened your shoulders. Just another day in the life of being the long-suffering assistant to the world's most infuriating man. You entered the break room, feeling a little better after your earlier encounter with Jungkook, but still slightly on edge. You poured yourself a fresh cup of coffee, hoping the caffeine will clear your mind. As you turned around, you spot someone new standing by the snack table. Hey there, you called out, your curiosity piqued. The new employee was a tall man with dark hair and an easy smile, radiating a friendly vibe. Hi, I'm Jinwoo, He replied enthusiastically, extending his hand. I just started last week. I was hoping to meet some people. You shook his hand, smiling back at him. Nice to meet you, Jinwoo. I'm Lee Ryan. Welcome to the chaos. Thanks. Everyone is being really nice so far, but I could use some guidance, he admitted, glancing around the busy break room. Trust me, I know the feeling, you said, leaning against the counter as you both grabbed snacks. But it gets easier. Just avoid Jungkook in the mornings. He's a bit intense until he had his coffee, you exclaimed, munching on the chocolate cookies. Jungkook, the CEO. Jinwoo raised his eyebrows in surprise. I heard he's a hard ass. Is he really that bad? That bad doesn't even begin to cover it. You joked, rolling your eyes. But he's not all bad, just intense. You both chuckled, and the conversation flew easily, sharing stories about your experiences in the company and swapping funny anecdotes about co-workers. The atmosphere was light, and for the first time today, you felt genuinely relaxed. I'm really glad I met you, Jinwoo said, his smile brightening. I've been feeling like an outsider, but this helps a lot. Anytime. We should grab lunch together sometime, you suggested, feeling a sense of camaraderie forming. Just as you were about to continue your conversation, the door swung open, and in walked Jungkook, his presence instantly commanding attention. He scanned the room, and you felt your heart drop as he locked eyes with you. You couldn't help but shift uncomfortably as he strode towards you. Jinwoo's friendly demeanor changed slightly, sensing the tension. Miss Fyan, Jungkook called out, his tone even but with an edge that suggested irritation. I need you in my office, now. You opened your mouth to respond, but the urgency in his voice left no room for argument. Can it wait? You asked, glancing back at Jinwoo, who wore the interaction with mild surprise. No, it can't. Jungkook replied, eyes narrowed slightly as he looked between you and Jinwoo. I have important work to discuss. Oh, duty calls, you said to Jinwoo, forcing a smile as you reluctantly pushed yourself away from the counter. I'll catch you later. Good luck, Jinwoo called out, his tone light, but there was a hint of confusion in his smile. You gave him a thumbs up as you headed toward Jungkook, your stomach churning with a mix of anxiety and curiosity. You can't just call me like that without any warning, Mr. JEON, you said, trying to maintain your composure as you stepped out of the break room after him. He glanced at you, his jaw set tight. I saw you talking to the new guy. Thought you'd be more focused on your work. You stopped in your tracks, surprised by the sharpness in his voice. We were just talking. It's not a crime, you know. Talking or flirting, he retorted, eyebrows raised in challenge, his voice low. Excuse me, you asked, incredulous. Why would it be flirting? He's just getting settled in. Right, Jungkook said, crossing his arms, his eyes glinting with something you couldn't quite decipher, annoyance, jealousy. But it just looked a little cozy to me. You narrowed your eyes, unable to ignore the flutter of confusion in your chest. Your heart raced, and you felt an unusual mix of irritation and intrigue. It was just a friendly conversation, Mr. JEON. You know that, right? He leaned closer, eyes narrowing slightly. I know what I saw. Just remember your priorities, assistant. The way he said assistant felt almost possessive, and you were caught off guard by the sudden wave of frustration and curiosity. Why did he care so much about who you talked to? Before you could respond, he gestured towards his cabin. Let's focus on the upcoming project. You felt your heart race as you stepped into his office, the tension in the air thickening. You were left wondering why Jungkook's reaction had you feeling so flustered, and why, despite his icy demeanor, he seemed to care more than he let on. What was wrong with CEO JEON? It's been a week since that strange conversation in Jungkook's office. Since then, things had only gotten weirder. The friendship with Junwoo had flourished. He had become a regular presence in your breaks and lunch hours, sharing jokes and making the workday pass in a blur of light-hearted conversation. His easygoing nature and genuine kindness had made him a fast friend, and yet every time Jungkook caught the two of you talking, his mood soared instantly. At first, you brushed it off thinking it was just his natural grumpiness, but then came the interruptions. Jungkook would suddenly call you into his office for urgent tasks whenever you were with Jinwoo. If he spotted you two heading out for lunch, he'd conveniently find some reason to hold you back. Meetings, random errands, even assignment that could easily be emailed, anything to keep you away from Jinwoo. Today was no different either. You and Jinwoo were standing by the coffee maker, laughing over some silly meme he found when your phone buzzed. You glanced down at the screen and your heart sank a little. It was a text from Jungkook. Come to my office now. Of course, you muttered under your breath, suppressing a groan. You looked at Jinwoo apologetically. I have to go. The boss beacons. Jinwoo chuckled, shaking his head. He really keeps you busy, huh? It's like he's allergic to give you a moment's rest. You rolled your eyes dramatically, or allergic to seeing me happy. You joked, but there was an edge to your voice that you couldn't quite hide. Jinwoo smiled softly. Hang in there, let me know if you need any help. I'll wait for you at lunch. Yeah, I'll be there if he doesn't chain me to my desk. You sighed, giving him a small smile before turning toward Jungkook's office. The moment you stepped inside, Jungkook looked up from his desk, eyes narrowing slightly. There was a tension in the air, a mix of annoyance and something more that you couldn't quite place. He gestured to a pile of folders on his desk. Need you to go through these and compile a report by noon, he said curtly, his gaze flicking to you and then away as if he couldn't bear to look at you for too long. You blinked in confusion. Compile a report? That's pretty basic. Why can't I do it from my desk? Because I want it done here, he replied shortly, his tone leaving no room for argument. You stared at him, a frown tugging at your lips. But I have other tasks to finish. Those can wait. He cut you off, his jaw tightening. This is a priority. Something inside you snapped a little. Is it a priority or do you just not want me out there with Jinwoo? The words were out before you could stop them. His eyes flashed and for a moment the mask of calm cracked. What I want is for you to focus on your job, not waste time gossiping. He bit out, his tone sharp and demanding. You gaped at him, your frustration bubbling over. We were just talking. Why do you care so much? I don't. He snapped back too quickly, his gaze intense and unrelenting. But if you spend half as much energy on your work as you do on socializing, you would have been done already. Unbelievable, you muttered under your breath, shaking your head as you grabbed the stack of folders, biting back a retort. Fine, I'll do it here. Happy? Ecstatic, he said dryly, his voice flat. But as you turned away and sat down at the small desk in the corner of his office, you could feel his eyes lingering on you, the unspoken tension between you thickening the air. And so it went, day after day. You were constantly being pulled into Jungkook's orbit, and every time you thought you had a moment of peace with Jinwoo, he found a way to interrupt. But more than the interruptions, it was his behavior that had been throwing you off. Jungkook had always been a tough, stoic boss, but lately he had been different. He was more on edge, more prone to snapping at the smallest things, and then there was the strangest part of all, the coffee and the sunflower. For the past 5 mornings, you had arrived at your desk to find a cup of freshly brewed coffee and a single sunflower sitting there waiting for you. The first time you thought it was some sort of joke, maybe from one of your co-workers, but when it happened again and again, you began to wonder. There was never a note, never a clue as to who had been leaving them, just the same perfect sunflower, its bright yellow petals a cheerful burst of color against the monotony of your desk. You frowned down at the cup and flower waiting for you this morning, brushing your fingers gently over the soft petals. It had become a ritual now, arriving, finding the gift, and wondering who the mysterious sender could be. You are getting flowers now? Jinwoo's voice broke through your thoughts. He was standing beside your desk, looking at the sunflower with mild interest. Someone's got a crush. You laughed lightly, though there was a twinge of something. Hope in your chest. I wish. I have no idea who had been leaving these. Really? No one has come forward? He asked, leaning closer, inspecting the sunflower with a critical eye. No, you replied, shaking your head. Just shows up every morning. Coffee is always exactly how I like it too. Whoever it is, they know me well. Well, it's sweet, Jinwoo said, smiling at you. I'd say you have a secret admirer. Right, you murmured, glancing around the office thoughtfully. But who? Before you could ponder further, a shadow fell across your desk. You looked up to see Jungkook standing there, his expression thunderous. Miss Ryan, he said sharply, his gaze darting to Jinwoo and then back at you. I need you in my office. You suppressed a sigh, feeling Jinwoo stiffen beside you. Again, you asked, exasperated. I just... Now, Jungkook bit out, his eyes locked onto yours. Bring your notes. We are reworking the project timeline. You glanced at Jinwoo, who gave you a small supportive smile. Go on, we'll catch up later. You're sure, you muttered, standing up reluctantly. As you followed Jungkook back to his office, you couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between you. The coffee, the flower, the way he kept pulling you away from Jinwoo. It was like he was deliberately trying to keep you close, but why? You took a deep breath, steeling yourself as you stepped into his office, determined to get some answers. Okay, what's your problem, Mr. JEON? He demanded, turning to face him the moment the door clicked shut. Why are you acting so weird lately? He froze, caught off guard by your directness. For a long moment, he just stared at you, his expression unreadable. Then slowly, he leaned back against his desk, crossing his arms over his chest. What makes you think I am the one acting weird? He asked quietly, his voice low and steady. Maybe it's you? You opened your mouth to argue, but something in his gaze, intense, almost intimidating, made the words die in your throat. There was something he was not saying, something hidden beneath the irritation and possessiveness. Just focus on your work, he murmured, looking away, and stay away from distractions. Your heart skipped a beat. Distractions? Did he mean Jinwoo? Are you seriously jealous? You whispered, searching his face. Is that what this is about? Jungkook's jaw tightened, but he didn't reply. And as the silence stretched between you, you realized that maybe, just maybe, there was more truth to your question than either of you were ready to admit. Most employees had started leaving for the day, and the atmosphere was relaxed. You were tidying up your desk, sorting through the day's notes, when Jinwoo approached. Hey Ryan, Jinwoo called softly, leaning against your desk with a bright smile. Got a minute? He glanced up, surprised by his presence but pleased to see him. Sure, what's up? He shifted nervously, scratching the back of his neck, his gaze dropping to the sunflower sitting in its small vase at the corner of your desk. I wanted to ask, are you free tonight? Tonight? You blinked, caught off guard. Yeah, I guess, but why? Well, Jinwoo's smile turned a little sheepish, his eyes warm as he met your gaze. I was thinking maybe we could grab dinner together. There's this new Italian place I have been wanting to try, unless you are busy. Your heart skipped a beat, surprised and flattered by his sudden invitation. Dinner? You repeat, a smile tugging at your lips. That sounds really nice actually. I'd love to. She can't make it. A deep, authoritative voice cut through the air, making both you and Jinwoo jump. You whirled around to see Jungkook standing just a few feet away, his expression blank, but his eyes blazing. His hands were casually tucked into his pockets, but there was nothing casual about the look he was giving Jinwoo. What? You stammered, staring at him in confusion. Mr. John, what are you talking about? I need you tonight, he said simply, his gaze never leaving Jinwoo. There's an important event I am attending, and you will be accompanying me. Event? You gaped at him, struggling to process what was happening. But you never mentioned. I'm mentioning it now, he interrupted smoothly, his voice calm, but there was an edge to it that sent a shiver down your spine. He finally shifted his gaze to you, his expression unreadable. It's the last minute thing. The CEO of partner company will be there, and I need my assistant with me to manage logistics. You glanced between Jungkook and Jinwoo, tone. Jinwoo's brows were furrowed, clearly confused and a little annoyed. She is your assistant, not your date, he said evenly, though you could see the tension in his jaw. I am aware, Jungkook replied coldly, a sharpness in his voice that made the hairs on your back of your neck stand up. But I need her there, it's non-negotiable. You swallowed hard, glancing at Jinwoo helplessly. I'm really sorry, Jinwoo, It's okay, you don't have to explain. Jinwoo cut you off gently, though his gaze was still locked on Jungkook's, like he was sizing him up. I'll make it up to you, I promise, you said softly, guilt bursting in your chest. Jinwoo gave you a small, understanding smile. We'll have dinner another time then. He paused, then added, his eyes never leaving Jungkook's. If your boss lets you. Let's go, Miss Wyan, Jungkook said abruptly, his jaw tight as he turned on his heel. We are running late. You hesitated, shooting Jinwoo one last apologetic look before following Jungkook toward the elevator. The silence between you was thick with tension as the door slid shut, trapping you alone with him. What the hell was that? You demanded the moment you are out of earshot. You can't just barge in like that and... Like what? He snapped, his gaze boring into yours. Like your boss, who has every right to decide when and where you are needed? You know that's not what I meant. You said, frustration boiling over. You knew I had plans tonight, and you made me cancel them on purpose. Why? His jaw clenched, a muscle ticking angrily. Because I needed you. You needed me? You echoed incredulously. For what exactly? To stand around looking pretty while you mingle with rich people? His eyes flashed, and for a moment he looked almost hurt, but then he schooled his features back into that familiar, infuriating mass of indifference. I needed my assistant, and you are my assistant, aren't you? Mr. John, I'm not your personal puppet. You shot back, your voice trembling with suppressed anger. You can't just yank me around whenever it suits you. I don't, he replied quietly, his gaze dropping to the floor. I only do it when it's necessary. Necessary? You repeated, shaking your head. It wasn't necessary, Mr. John, it was... Because I didn't like it, he interrupted suddenly, his voice raw, almost vulnerable. You froze, staring at him in shock. What? He looked away, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. I didn't like seeing you with him, Mr. John. You trailed off, completely thrown. Was he admitting to jealousy? What are you trying to say? I'm saying... He took a deep breath, his eyes finally meeting yours, dark and intense. I don't want you with him. I don't want you spending time with him, laughing with him, having dinner with him. Why? Why do you care so much? The word slipped out before you could stop it, your heart hammering wildly. For a long moment, he just stared at you, his gaze boring into yours. Then slowly, he leaned closer, his voice dropping to a low, almost desperate whisper. Because I want you with me, he whispered, his eyes searching yours as if willing you to understand. I don't want anyone else to have your attention, just me. Your breath caught in your throat, your mind spinning. Was he serious? Did he actually... Mr. John, you trailed off at a complete loss for words. He shook his head abruptly, as if breaking himself out of a trance. Forget it, he muttered, turning away. Let's just go. The car is waiting. You watched him walk away, your heart racing, your thoughts in chaos. This entire week, his possessiveness, his strange behavior, his interruptions. Was it possible that the reason for all of it is because he... No, it can't be, can it? As you followed him to his car, silence stretching between you, you realized that maybe, just maybe, there was more to Jungkook's feelings than either of you was willing to admit. You stepped out of the car, glancing around in confusion. This wasn't any corporate event venue. The entrance was lined with a red carpet, and the soft glow of chandeliers hints at something far more intimate. Mr. John, what is this place? You asked, turning to face him. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit, his raven hair slightly tousled. Under the moonlight, he looked strikingly handsome, and for a second, you forgot to breathe. You will see, he murmured, his voice low and steady. He extended his arm, a small, almost shy smile tugging at his lips. Shall we? Hesitantly, you placed your hand on his arm. He led you through the entrance, and as you stepped out onto the terrace, your breath hissed. The entire rooftop was empty except for a single table set up in the middle, draped in a crisp white linen and surrounded by hundreds of twinkling lights. Soft music floated through the air, and the view of the city skyline stretched out in a breathtaking panorama. Mr. John, what is this? You whispered, staring at him in bewilderment. I thought you said we were going to an event. We are, he replied softly, his gaze never leaving yours. But it's a private one, just for us. Your heart skipped a beat. Just for us? He nodded, gently guiding you to the table. I wanted to have dinner with you, he whispered, his voice so quiet it was almost lost in the breeze. Without interruptions, without anyone else. You glanced around, taking in the soft glow of the lights, the flickering candles, the delicate floral arrangements. It was like something out of a dream. You booked this entire place? Jungkook shrugged lightly, his gaze steady. I wanted it to be special. But why? Why would you go through all this trouble? You breathed, staring at him in confusion. He hesitated, his expression guarded, and then slowly he reached out, his fingers brushing slightly against yours. Because I wanted to show you how important you are to me. You deserve more than rushed meetings and cold conversations. You deserve everything. You swallowed hard, your heart hammering wildly. Mr. John, just have dinner with me, please. Okay, you whispered, your voice barely audible. A smile broke across his face, so warm and genuine that it took your breath away. He pulled out your chair with surprising grace, waiting until you were seated before taking his place across from you. The meal that followed was a blur of exquisite dishes and soft conversation. You talked about everything and nothing, work, dreams, even silly childhood stories, and slowly the tension between you melted away. Jungkook was different tonight. There was no trace of the stern icy boss who barked orders and glared at everyone. Instead, he was relaxed, his smile easy, his laughter soft and unguarded. And then, as dessert was served, a decadent chocolate mousse garnished with delicate edible flowers, he stood, holding out his hand to you. Dance with me, he asked quietly, his gaze so intense it sent a shiver down your spine. Dance? You stared at him, taken aback. But there is no... The soft strains of a violin filled the air, the melody achingly sweet and romantic. You glanced around, your heart racing. Where did the music... I thought of everything. He spoke, his lips quirked into a small, playful smile. Now, will you dance with me? You hesitated for only a second before slipping your hand into his. Yes, you whispered, letting him pull you close. His arms wrapped around you gently, one hand resting on the small of your back and the other holding your hand. You swayed together, the city lights sparkling around you like 1,000 tiny diamonds. There was something magical about the way he moved, guiding you effortlessly. His touch light but firm. For a moment, the world faded away, and it was just the two of you, caught in a quiet, perfect moment. When I need to tell you something, he whispered, his breath warm against your ear. You pulled back slightly, your heart pounding as you met his gaze. What is it? He took a deep breath, his grip tightening ever so slightly on your hand. I know I have been difficult, he began quietly, his gaze steady. And I know I haven't treated you the way you deserve, but that's because I have been trying to ignore something I can't deny anymore. Mr. John, what are you? I'm in love with you, he breathed, his words rushing out in a desperate whisper. I have been in love with you for so long, and I didn't know how to handle it. Seeing you with Jinwoo, watching you smile with him, laughing with him, it drove me insane. Because all I wanted was to be the one making you happy, to be the one you look at like that. I know I have been a jerk, he continued, his gaze never wavering, and I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I couldn't let you go. I can't let you go. Before he could finish, you reached up, cupping his face gently. Jungkook, shut up. You whispered, your voice trembling. His eyes widened in surprise. What? Shut up and answer me one thing first. He blinked, taken aback. You took a deep breath, meeting his gaze steadily. Was it you? The coffee, the sunflower on my desk every morning, was that you? For a split second, he froze. Then slowly, he nodded, his gaze dropping. Yes, it was me. He spoke softly, almost shyly. Your heart swelled, emotions flooding through you. Why? Because I wanted to brighten your day. Even if I couldn't be the one to make you smile, I wanted to show you that someone was thinking of you, that someone cared. Tears pricked your eyes, your throat tightening at his honest confession. I'm sorry I couldn't say it sooner, he whispered, his eyes shining with sincerity. But I'm saying it now. I love you, Vine. I love you so much. You stared at him, your heart aching with 1,000 unspoken words. And then, without thinking, you pulled him down, pressing your lips to his in a soft, lingering kiss. He stiffened in shock for a brief moment, and then his arms tightened around you, his lips moving against yours with a sweet, desperate intensity. The world tilted, and for a moment, everything else ceased to exist. It was only the feeling of his lips on yours, the warmth of his body against yours, the soft hum of the music blending with the rapid thumping of your heart. When you finally pulled away, both of you were breathless, his forehead resting against yours. I love you too, you idiot, you confessed, smiling up at him. A laugh burst out of him, light, unrestrained, filled with joy. Yeah, yeah, he nodded, reaching up to brush a lock of hair from his forehead. But you still owe me an explanation for ruining my dinner plans. He grinned, leaning down to steal another quick, playful kiss. I'll make it up to you every day if you'll let me, he promised softly. Every day, huh? You teased, your heart swelling with happiness. Every single day, he murmured, his gaze softening, for the rest of my life. And with that, he kissed you again, the stars above twinkling in silent approval, a city below a blur of lights, and you knew this was the only beginning of something truly beautiful.